Hello, and welcome to the Consistent Profits Podcast, brought to you by Inside Out Trading and Brian McAvoy, where the focus is on consistency. Because when you have the consistent part down, profits become easy. Hello, everybody. This is Brian McAvoy with a new episode of the Consistent Profits Podcast. I'm excited today to be interviewing Tony Greer. He's the creator of TG Macro and publisher of the Morning Navigator newsletter. Hey, thanks for being on the podcast today, Tony.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian. How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Seriously, glad you're here. Now, for those of you who are not already familiar with Tony, Tony is the founder of TG Macro. He founded it in 2016 to create an independent research firm where he could combine 25 years in trading and 15 years of writing a daily newsletter into one analytical platform. Tony provides fundamental, technical, and behavioral analysis of global markets to a group of institutional clients and a personal subscriber base. Tony established himself as a macro market analyst for what he believes to be the next iteration of the Wall Street ecosystem, which we're going to touch on here pretty quick. Research and market publications are likely to be paid for on an a la carte basis, and he intends for TG Macro to be on the recommended menu. I thought it was a pretty cool metaphor. He's taken.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, no, very cool. Anyway, Tony's taken an entrepreneurial path to serving clients with custom analysis and a daily newsletter, among other publications. His style has led him to become a lauded contributor on Seeking Alpha and Real Vision. And Tony, he's just kind of a laid back kind of guy, very down to earth. Again, Tony, thanks for being here today, man.
Absolutely, man. Love being on the show, Brian. Thank you.
Yeah, glad you're here. And one of the reasons I was jazzed to have you on, you got a pretty cool story. I mean, might as well just go ahead and start at the beginning. I mean, your father was a trader, right? He was on the desk for like 30 years.
Yeah, he had one seat pretty much on Wall Street, and by the end of it, he ran over-the-counter trading for Morgan Stanley, Dean Witter, when he retired in 1999. And so sort of trading and bids and offers and things like that were dinner conversation from the time I was about 5 or 6.
Yeah, so you grew up in trading. It was, like you said, just part of daily life. That's freaking cool. Now, how did that influence you, when you were growing up? Because obviously, being a trader has a different mentality than a lot of other, careers. How did that, influence you growing up, and of course, as your career as a trader?
Yeah, that's exactly it, Brian, was noticing that I felt that I had the mentality for it, because I noticed, when my dad came home every day, he was super energized about what went on at work and really like excited and animated about it. And it sounded very exciting and very competitive and fast moving to me. And, growing up and enjoying sports and things like that, that was the sort of natural metaphor that it seemed like he was going and playing a game or playing a sport every day when he got home. And so that kind of directly led me to want to stick my nose in deeper and see what that life of that kind of a career would be like.
Huh.
And so, it was really, go ahead.
No, it's just cool that you mentioned that, because I love trying to relay to people that trading is a performance activity. And a lot of times, just as a little slip, I'll say it's a performance sport. Because, there are parallels to it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, obviously, your dad was fairly successful at it. He was able to send you to Cornell. Nice. Very, very classy school, where you studied agricultural business and management. So how did you wind up choosing that? And, how did that serve you as you moved into the trading industry?
Yeah, so, I knew I wanted to have a career in business of some sort. And if you want to be a business major at Cornell, you wind up going to the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences.
Really?
They take the route of teaching you sort of business management almost via the study of farm management almost, and how that entire ecosystem runs. And that's kind of that's where, all the business majors are, but that's the school that you wind up going to. And it was really, really interesting and a great like expansion of my education to be in that school.
Wow, that is totally cool. Because
yeah,
I mean, and it makes perfect sense. But most business schools, they're over here, talking finance and accounting and that kind of stuff, which has its place, no doubt, in business. But what you're talking about really is more like the nuts and bolts of it, like the actual, business and ops side of things. So that is cool, huh?
Yeah.
Now, the other thing I noticed, though, because you graduated in like 1990, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was only a few years later, you were like the vice president, in the company you were at. How in the heck did you move up that fast? That's like a noteworthy accomplishment.
Well, I managed to get to that spot, I guess, at UBS. I earned the rank of vice president. And I think it was probably by virtue of having, the responsibility of running a fairly major book on the FX desk at the time. I started off at UBS and I was sort of the assistant Mark Yen trader, which was like, a Mark Yen cross trader, which is kind of a smaller seat on the trading desk. And by the time I left there, I was the dollar Swiss trader, which was one of the bigger jobs on the desk where you saw more flow than I could possibly describe to you, as the center of a Swiss money center bank. And that's a really big job. So I guess having that responsibility was the reason I got my promotion. And they sent me to Zurich to work in the head office for 6 months. Along with that, which was really cool and a tremendous experience to work on a trading desk in the European time zone, where you get to experience sort of the end of the Tokyo day and the beginning of the New York day. So it was really, really fulfilling.
Huh. No, so were you still here in the States, or had you gone over to Europe for a little bit?
Well, I spent 6 months in Zurich, yeah,
Oh,
and right before I joined Goldman, I guess in '93.
okay. Wow.
Yeah,
Man, that is cool. So, all right, now, so you wound up working for Goldman Sachs in commodities. How was it working for them? I mean, because they've got different reputations depending on who you talk to. Um,
yeah.
yeah. So, how was it working for them? What was the atmosphere like, especially being in the commodities trading part of it?
It was very much like joining the New York Yankees, right? And like joining a professional organization that is used to winning championships year in and year out and carries them with such swag, carries themselves with that type of swagger and confidence, but also because of the level of professionalism in the trading operations at Goldman Sachs was like nothing you've ever seen before. And they are truly, truly experts at risk management. And the people that do the jobs there are really good at what they do and work really hard and spend a lot of hours in the market managing the risk that they are tasked with managing. And sort of learning that was learning the real rigor of risk management,
Mhm.
and the discipline of, just the basics of, cutting your losses and letting your profits run, and, the way to sort of handle yourself at a large institution that's got a lot of money and a lot of trades flying around on the trading desk, and how to be responsible to the right people and things like that. So it was a really, really rewarding job, and a great, great place to work. And sort of if there was no dot-com bubble, I would still be working, sitting there, probably working on the commodity desk doing the same thing.
Huh. Now, um, I would imagine, because you mentioned, their level of professionalism and everything, I would imagine that they probably had some pretty wicked training programs for you as well, yeah? Or was it
Well,
mostly learning on the job and kind of in association with the people that you worked with?
yeah, I completed a training program before I joined the firm, in the sense that I worked for a competitor and I ran into Goldman Sachs in the markets quite a bit, like through the broker market, where, you would quote them a price for a forward Swiss position, a 1 week rollover or something like that. And we were one of the banks at UBS that had a really good credit line with Goldman Sachs. So brokers would come to me directly and ask me for a price for a certain client. And you got used to that, to who that client might be or who one of those clients might be. And so you try to make a super competitive price, and by making competitive prices on large size trades,
Right.
that was what sort of intrigued the management over there to say, maybe we should meet this guy. If he's making us great prices in volume and, trading out of it without, losing his shirt and things like that, then maybe he knows what he's doing in this market. And so we kind of developed a really good working relationship first. And then I would say that, a spot opened up on the desk at Goldman Sachs, and the head of the desk asked me if I was interested. And of course I jumped at the opportunity.
Yeah, no kidding. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
exciting.
one thing I noticed, or I saw that caught my attention, of course, and you put it there for that reason. But so, how was it that day that you placed the 30,000 gold futures contracts trade? Was that
That was,
a scary day, or
yeah.
that like you're stepping up to the plate and you know the game's on the line, but you want to be there?
Yeah, that was several years into my career at Goldman Sachs, but that was, I was working on the floor as Goldman Sachs's options broker in gold, because we had a lot of gold risk on and a lot of gold options risk. So it made sense to have our own broker in the ring. And so I got elected to do that job. And literally, it was just a day that our cash gold broker was happened to be out sick like randomly, and this guy is a warrior who never called in sick, and he came down with something terrible and couldn't come in. And so it was like, well, you looks like you're going to be the futures broker today. And it happened to be one of those days that gold was rallying sharply, and we had to sell as many futures contracts into that rally as we could to unwind in our position that we had on. We were long a lot of the exchange and short a lot of metal, for a very specific reason. And on that day, we were trying to unwind it by selling a lot of the exchange out and buying the metal back because that trade had gone our way.
Right.
And so by the end of the day, I counted my totals, and, it was a day that I started when from bell to bell, I was, trading futures contracts at a furious pace all day and going back and checking trades and making sure you didn't have any out trades. And I was there until 7 o'clock that night, just making sure everything went okay. And thank God there were no out trades that could have been super expensive. Gold had a huge range that day. And I remember never being so mentally drained and exhausted in my life. And I literally went right across the street and did a shot of Jack Daniels. It was the first thing that I did when I finished that day at work, to be totally honest.
So did that one shot about put you on your butt or what?
Yeah, it was just kind of a recalibration with reality. I was like, what the hell just happened to me?
Oh yeah.
On my way home, and had to just stop off and take a minute and just breathe and know that everything was going to be okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. That well, with mental activities, that's one thing that's always cracked me up, like going back to college days and stuff. But I wasn't in business, I was in engineering. And one thing that was cool was right before graduation, we had to take what was called the EIT exam, or engineering training exam, and it was kind of like an SAT, but just for engineers. And it was 2 4-hour sessions, and I remember walking out of there, and so did everybody else. And we're walking out, it's like we felt drunk just because our brains were so fried.
That's what it is.
It was because yeah, just super intense. So yeah, I can imagine what your day was like on that day. So yeah, how cool.
Yeah,
Huh.
I was glad that was a one and done. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, but you got a lifestyle out of it, dude.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I did get an incredible experience from it.
Huh. Now, as far as with your degree, I would imagine it just naturally has served you very well. I mean, did you find a lot of what you had studied that you found it very useful and applicable when you got into trading commodities and stuff like that?
Yeah, I had an immediate interest in commodity trading, coming from the farm, farm management setting. I was really interested in the prices of those things and how the prices of those things like, eggs, milk, and things like that moved.
Mhm.
Then you start getting into grains and livestock trading. And man, from there, if that's what you're into, then you're a hardcore commodity futures trader. And that was my job essentially for my entire 6 years at Goldman Sachs. Was either trading on the gold desk or the Goldman Sachs Commodities Index, which is a basket of 22 commodities. So you really have your hands in everything.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that experience was really invaluable. I think the most important thing I took away from Cornell was the network, though. Even more than the education, there's still a lot of guys that are from that school that I still speak to every day that are fraternity brothers and potential, business colleagues and things like that. So that was really the big takeaway for me.
Man, okay. Oh, I also
Yeah.
saw. So you played lacrosse while you were there too, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. We lost 2 national championships while I was there. It was tremendous.
Wow, but you got to the national championship. That's cool, man.
Yeah. It was wild.
Yeah, lacrosse is a great sport. My son played all 4 years in high school, and yeah, totally fun game. Excellent, excellent. You got to be a
It
little
really
bit
is.
crazy for that game, though, just like with trading, though.
Yeah. That's
Lacrosse
fair.
is not a game for the squeamish or weak at heart. It's like no, it's brutal.
It's a warrior athlete sport like hockey. It really is.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, except you don't get half the pads the hockey players do.
True. True. True.
So, huh, cool. Okay, and enough of the digression there. I had to ask you about that, but now
All good.
one thing I love that you got on your site, and I just think it's cool because I'm curious what your actual perspective is on it. You got a quote up there. He says it's your golden rule in markets and in trading. Consistency is a moving target. So what do you mean with that? And particularly from like a daily trading perspective.
Well, consistency is a moving target is kind of like my reminder that nothing stays the same in trading, right? Like correlations don't stay the same, trading relationships don't stay the same. Like, you have to, it's kind of a reminder to have an open mind if you want to make money, right? If you want to make money over the course of time, you have to be able to reinvent yourself, right? And find different trades that work, because the trades that are working today, for example, are not the trades that were working last year, as early as that. And the trades that were working last year were trades that hadn't worked in forever, right? Last year was the big year. We had tech sell off and natural resources exploded, right? And that was trade that was just unheard of, and so the consistency is a moving target is really just a nod to that, to remember that, if you want to continue to make money, understand that the world is changing around you. So your focus and your tactics have to change with that.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Now, right along with that, because that's a good like general look at things. Now, the name of the podcast is Consistent Profits Podcast. So aside from or along with that, what would you say are probably one or two of the biggest obstacles that most traders have to being able to realize consistent profits?
I think emotion is the biggest one. I think that traders have to learn the reverse harnessing of emotion. And I say the reverse harnessing of emotion because I think you have to learn over time to develop a process in trading so that your decision making isn't always emotionally driven, right? It's process driven, right? I'm not getting into this trade because I like these particular companies right now. I'm getting into this trade because I can tell by what just happened and what's happening with price action that this sector is going up. So it's kind of like having that mental, liberty or that mental freedom to be able to say, whatever it is, I'm okay buying this because I don't have this like long-standing agnostic view against or for certain securities that gets ingrained in your brain, right? I'm the kind of guy that can be, bearish technology for 3 months and then bullish technology for the next 3 months. If that's where I think the monies can be made, I have no problem being sort of sector and security agnostic.
Okay.
If your job as a trader is to make money, then that's sort of kind of chasing volatility around, chasing where the trades are and sort of being where the action is.
Mhm.
And so, once you learn that, then you can really start to mount an attack on making money.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, a lot of sense. Um, Now, the other thing that you commented on that I think is worth exploring here, you make the statement on your site. It says we have clearly entered a new era in financial markets. What did you mean by that? Because that could go a lot of different directions. So what did you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It has to do with sort of the way Wall Street has evolved, and most especially in my opinion, the last 10 or 15 years or so. And the way that I see that evolution is right alongside the sort of, or sort of on the heels of the rise of electronic trading, where we went from everything being open outcry and specialists at the post on the stock exchange to being more electronic network driven and, across commodities and equities, right? Less people involved, smaller trade sizes and things like that. So that is one, part of the wait, get me back on track again, Brian. This question was
Well, when you were saying that we've entered a new era in financial markets.
that's it. Sorry. So alongside the sort of evolution of having less humans involved and more electronics involved in the trading technology,
Mhm.
there's a sort of the old model of having your sell side firm have a set of analysts that disseminate information to a set of sales traders that then go and disseminate it to a set of clients that then pay the traders back with order flow. That model seemed to be breaking and is totally broken, in my opinion, to the point that, they just opened up the path for a lot of individual either content creators or independent analysts to offer their opinions, and to offer their opinions not necessarily from the hierarchy of a large organization, but rather from the privacy of the internet, to the clients that you developed over the years, or from the clients that you picked up over Twitter, and the relationships that you built in your DMs through people that have hit you up and said, hey, you seem to understand markets. What can you tell me? And you can say, well, I offer a publication and a consulting service, and that's what I do. And people say, okay, let's start with the publication. Let's see what you write about. And that's going to kind of, a little bit part of the sales funnel, but that opportunity wouldn't have existed in 1990. Right. For a guy to be sitting there making a living off the internet, talking to institutional clients, talking to RIAs, talking to wealth managers and things like that. So I felt like the world, around 2016 or even before that was ripe for more of that type of independent contractor. So I became one.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, very cool that you touched on the evolution of things. That's one thing I found totally remarkable over the last 20 some years. It's just of course we've had the evolution of the internet and that whole technology space, but the trading world as well has gone through a lot of evolution and development and new characteristics and considerations as far as being a retail trader. So yeah,
it's like a new front end every 6 months for the retail trader, right? It's really getting exciting. You have over the day expiration options now, right? And financial products creeping up on every single thing that moves. So it's getting really exciting.
True. Yeah. It's, I mean, with Forex several years ago, that was considered like the wild, wild west, but now it's like there's a whole lot of the trading world that's becoming the wild west. And yeah, things just getting crazy. So, huh.
From meme stocks to commodities to bonds. I mean, it's all Wild West now.
Oh yeah. Well, not even talking like getting into the NFTs and all that craziness.
Oh man. Yeah. I don't play in that arena.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Well, so you said that was kind of what prompted you to go ahead and start teaching macro and public. And was that when you started publishing your newsletter, or were you publishing a newsletter before you actually started up the company?
Yeah, good question. So I had a head start I started taking notes about markets when I was at Goldman Sachs in the mid 90s, and literally kept a marble notebook for every year kind of thing. And that evolved into, when I got into equities, I figured out that the best way for me to keep in touch with people was to sort of give them an update on what I saw as the macro landscape, and to sort of, the groundwork behind what might move equities. And so I started formalizing that into something that I wrote for one client that was on the West Coast, so that when he came in, he could say, okay, what do I got to know about in the macro world before I sit down and trade stocks today? And the one newsletter that I wrote for one client, organically, it evolved into a little bit more of a characterful type of publication, but it also evolved to have over 1,000 subscribers, totally organically and totally by word of mouth. By the time I broke off from the street and started my own note, so it got really popular. I had a number of really, really talented and sort of really loyal mentors of mine that said that my content could stand on its own and that people would pay for it and you could teach them how to trade and make money. And so that's been sort of the agenda ever since, election day 2016.
Huh. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Now you've got a couple of different things that you offer in addition to the newsletter. You got a couple of different programs, but so what are some of the other services that you provide at TG Macro?
Well, I keep it really simple. I have my publication business, right, where I write the Morning Navigator. I write it 3 days a week now. Plus, I insert different bulletins on the days that I don't schedule to write when the market's volatile. So I keep everybody posted when it's busy. But I have the newsletter, and then I have my Point Lookout package, which includes 4 quarterly reports, which is just my quarterly outlook on the targets that I'm going to be trading for that next quarter. And the most important thing is it includes the TG Macro Slack channel, which is a channel of about 148 completely crazy traders, portfolio managers, investors, private offices, family offices, and things like that. And we stay in touch on a communication mechanism called Slack pretty much all day long and talk about markets, mostly, on the openings and closes. but we talk about markets 24/7, right through the weekend with, news updates and interesting articles. And it's become quite a living product that I'm really proud of, and has really gone a long way. And I'm really enjoying that. So aside from that, my other services are just private consulting, which is discussions with, like I said, portfolio managers, wealth managers, and individual investors about managing risk.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. So with your newsletters, your quarterly newsletter in particular, is the focus more on specific companies or more kind of industry and sector oriented?
Great question, Brian. I stay away from individual companies for a couple of reasons, mainly because it's kind of an additional layer of compliance risk that I don't really care to deal with. And also because, I also say I'm kind of a natural resources based equity trader. And so the sectors are divided up now in such a way that I can sort of just pick sectors to trade in. And the other reason is that I'm not that great of an individual stock trader unless the stock picks me, and that's meaning where, I discover a product that I love, like Yeti or Peloton, and go pull up the ticker and say, well, let's see what this thing looks like, and let's see what this chart, what kind of potential we have here. And then I kind of dig into trading a stock. But if it's not getting to know a stock like that, then it's just kind of a member of a big ETF to me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, funny that you do that. I think we all do that to a degree, though. It's like, yeah, man, that I really like. That is so cool. Like, I got to go check out the company.
Well, it was, I was lucky enough, Brian, to be, sitting here as a huge music fan on my desk at Goldman Sachs when Amazon, made it available where you could buy CDs and have them delivered to your house. And when you latch onto that and you're asking people, are you guys having all this music delivered to your house now? And everybody's like, no, not at all. Why? What are you doing? And you start to say like, oh, I think I'm onto something here. Let me see what Amazon is up to, and you find yourself opportunities like that. So it's really, really, that's the only way that I know how to pick stocks.
Yeah. How cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super fun.
Oh, how excellent.
When it works.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. Now,
yeah.
So do you, is your main point of connection with people your site or through your social channels? Do you have like one in particular that you like to focus on?
It's, well, the closest form of communication with me is through my Slack channel. And I started that so that clients, if they wanted to, clients that were serious about trading and were in the game kind of every day with orders on their desk or their own money to manage, to give people access to me 24/7. And that's kind of why I started that channel. And I was absolutely blown away at the response that I got for this product and the robustness of what goes on in there. I have people, I mean, I have guys that are working on oil rigs in the Gulf of Thailand in my Slack channel. I have guys that manage funds in Singapore. I have portfolio managers in Toronto, LA, Dallas, and everybody is really genuine about their input to what they put in there, and they want it to be a value add. So when you have a community like that comes together as a value add, I mean, I'm proud to say that it's my number one source of information in the morning, right? It's the first thing that I go to is see what people posted in my Slack channel overnight, because I know that'll be what's most relevant to the conversations that I'm having in the markets. And then I go out to the rest of the world.
Gotcha. Huh. So
yeah, so that's the closest touch point, and the rest is my newsletter, which is just an email that I develop relationships with people that way too, just going back and forth in the emails.
Okay. So if somebody wants to find out more about you, best place it's tgmacro.com, right?
Yep. There's a bio on there. You can look me up on Twitter at tgmacro.
Okay.
Really simple. And I'm just starting a Substack page, which is all free video. So if you want to sign up for that, that's at tgmacro.substack.com.
Okay.
And you would put an email address in there, and it'll probably be more around Labor Day when I start it all up again with a much more regular schedule. But there will be free videos on there where I do recaps of markets, like what happened over the last week and what happened over the last month. And sort of, this event just happened today, let's talk about it, and things like that. So people have found that really useful.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Indeed. Excellent. Well, I'll tell you what, this has been awesome visiting with you. I mean, it's our first time talking, so getting to know you a little bit and everything. very cool what you have going on, and the fact that you take a macro view to things. I mean, and particularly in the natural resources space, that's kind of near and dear to my heart because that's where I started. And
Hmm.
so yeah, for me, it's like at a lot of the instruments that are out there, it's like at least there's some real world supply and demand that's driving part of this. It's going on here, and it's not just a bunch of
That's right. And those commodities trend, right? Like, so there's real opportunities there.
yeah, indeed. So well, very cool.
Really are.
Well, any last words of wisdom? We'll go ahead and wrap things up. But any last words of wisdom for our listeners today?
No, if you want to read a publication that's very tuned into what's going on in the trading world and with markets and monitoring all four asset classes and looking for opportunities, then the Morning Navigator is a publication that you might like to try. I have samples of it on my website. I run a view matrix at the end where I have people run actual positions and keep track of the P&L. I measure it in just percentage points on each trade. So I don't do a portfolio sizing regime or anything like that. And so that's what I'm up to. And that's what's been working for the last 7 years. And hopefully it'll work for the next 70, Brian, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah. Well, and also just very cool that you're doing in newsletter form. I think that lends itself to being a bit more educational than some other types of information sources. So yeah, very cool indeed. Well,
I
Tony,
agree.
yeah, thanks for being here, and everybody that's listening. I thank you, and I applaud you for showing up today. To learn and develop as a trader. If you like what Tony's got, what to say, and his offering sounds interesting to you, definitely don't just listen and say, that was cool, and then forget about it and go on about your day. If it resonates with you, go ahead and swing by tgmacro.com and check out what he's got. Tony's a good guy. I've heard good things about him, and talking with him today, it's like, yeah, I'm sure he'll take good care of you. And again, yeah, Tony, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Brian. If any of your clients want to reach me, they can email me at tony@tgmacro.com if they have any questions about the publication or consulting or anything like that. So thank you for giving me a platform today. I'm totally flattered.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, glad you're having here. And everybody, thanks for attending the Consistent Profits podcast. We'll see you on the next episode. Cheers. Thank you for joining us today on the Consistent Profits podcast, brought to you by Inside Out Trading. Make sure to swing by Inside Out Trading and pick up your copy of The Proven Formula for Consistent Monthly Profits. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe on your favorite channel, and we'll see you on the next episode. Cheers.